How's it going, everybody? So we're back here with another Farmer Phil series. We're making some pretty good progress, and looking at all this, I'm actually really happy with what's going on. It's too bad that one's flat. Looking at the shop, now one of the main things that I did when I started out this account was max out the shop, and that means there's going to be more stuff for us to buy, like harpoons and stuff like that. I don't need one right now, but you know, if I was building one, maybe I'd need it for skill ups, and that's how I've been able to get all of my skill ups for Konamaya, for Shannon, and for Rakaja. I've been getting an insane amount of skill ups. If you look at this, I'm almost maxed skilled. I have his heal one away from being max skilled. Shannon, her third skill is maxed out. The second skill is getting there, 2 more, and then we're done. And then of course Konamaya, the second skill is maxed. And then the third skill just needs the cooldown times. So we're making some great progress, actually. As far as runes go, we've had a few good runes drop. So looking at this is a good rune to start out with. A speed +8, that's going to help a lot. Right now it may not seem like a lot, but trust me, for a low level account, it is huge. Every little thing helps. I've also switched crit damage on slot 4. Originally, it didn't really matter too much what we put, but now that we're starting to get actual rune builds, we're going to want to start putting the regular attack, crit damage, attack. Even if we have 3 to 4 star runes, it still matters, even if the crit can't be up super high. So, looking at our monsters right now, nothing much has changed with our monsters. It's mostly the runes. I went through and I cleaned out some runes, putting on some better ones, getting that HP up. We really want the HP to be higher. Not so much the damage. There's really not much we can do with the damage, but the HP is really important. That's what's going to determine if our monsters survive long enough for our healer to heal them. There's been a slight change of plans as well. I've actually decided that instead of the first fusion monster being Mycene, the Water Undyne, I've decided that I'm in fact going to start building the Water Ninja. The Water Ninja can actually farm Famon pretty decently. I'm not sure about Hell mode yet. I know it can farm hard mode pretty easily, and it is overall a good monster to build for early game. And it is also going to be the first fusion piece that we will need for Sigmaris, which is what we want to go for first. If we can get the Dark Yeti, then I might consider going for Veramos, because Veramos is very good all around. But I'm kind of trying to step away from Veramos a little bit since it is not farmable for all the pieces. The Wind Vampire needs a Wind Lizard Man, which is not farmable, and the Fire Succubus needs the Fire Beast Hunter, which is not farmable. So I'm still unsure if I want to do Veramos yet. He's very good, and I probably will need him, but Sigmaris is definitely farmable. I know that. I am 100% certain. Just double check here. Looking at all these monsters, they are in fact farmable so far. Yep. Farmable. And then this last one is actually obtainable through the Guild War shop. So if we come over here and we go over to, oh, okay, well, 6 minutes till we can check. It's completely farmable. You can go into the guild shop and buy them. I believe they're 200 a piece, and you need four of those, so 40 pieces because you get 10 pieces at a time. So you can buy them. You can buy the Martial Cats, so don't worry about that. But other than that, Sigmaris is completely farmable. So that's good news. That's great news. In other news, I've actually started building Ramagos, the Wind Warbear. In case you guys didn't know, for all of you beginner level players, the Wind Warbear is a very good monster to start out with. It can pretty much solo most things up until like the harder hitting dungeons, but it will farm for you. It'll be slow, but it will be consistent, and it is a easy monster to build and to rune. So basically the way it works is if it loses HP, it'll deal that amount of HP that it lost to a single enemy, and if you kill that enemy, you get an extra turn, which you can use to recover your HP and increase your defense for yourself to lose a little bit more so that you can clean shot again. Now, I mostly want to dedicate this video towards guiding you which key monsters you want to farm and to start out with. So we're going to go through each element, fire, water, and wind, and we're going to go through which monsters you should definitely farm as fast as possible, and they're pretty much the core monsters for you to build up. The first core monster is definitely going to be the Fire Hellhound Sayic. He is extremely good, very versatile. He provides the very first buff in the game, which is attack power and critical rate. That critical rate buff is very, very crucial because you're not going to be able to get good crit rate subs. So that's pretty much going to be your only chance to ever really crit on a consistent basis. So use this monster whenever you want your monsters to hit hard. He also hits very hard with his second skill if you rune him right. With good runes, for a lower level player, he could hit 5,000-6,000, which is a lot for a beginner level player. So I definitely suggest building him. The next core monster is definitely going to be the Fire Inugami. He is probably the fastest farmer you will be able to get. Considering all other monsters out there for farmable monsters, he's probably one of the fastest. He's pretty consistent and he's pretty good damage wise, and even late game he can be pretty versatile. So I definitely suggest going over to Famon and farming him as fast as possible. If you can't get him too fast, then it's not as big of a deal, but when you start hitting the 30s and you start needing to get a farming monster, I definitely suggest getting the Fire Inugami. He's probably the easiest one to build to be able to farm. Now we're moving into the water monsters. The first one is going to be the Water Garuda Konamaya. This is basically your only chance to ever cleanse all of the debuffs on your monsters, which is very crucial. This is going to be the only one you'll be able to build for a little while until you can build Veramos or some other monster that can cleanse. And the skill is at a very low cooldown, as well as Resurge, who he can use on himself to cool down his own skills, which is very, very useful. He also packs a stun on his first skill, and this is why I always choose the Water Garuda to build first on my account whenever I start an account. The Water Garuda is one of the healers that I definitely want to focus on, and it's very easy to find in secret dungeons on water days, and all around he's pretty easy to build and skill up since he's a 2-star monster. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say this is actually a core monster, but it is a monster that you need to consider. If you're not a big fan of the Wind Yeti, or you need more healing capabilities and you just can't get that light Inugami or that light Bearman, then the Water Howl is a good early game substitution. It packs 2 types of heals. We'll go over and look at the Awakened version. Recovers target allies and your own HP by 20%, and removes 1 harmful effect of all allies and recovers the HP by 20%. So while the heal might not be that large, it is definitely helpful, especially when you're just starting out. You want to get as many healers as possible. Now, of course, he does have limitations, and I don't think I would recommend 6-starring him, but maybe bringing him up to 3-star, 4-star isn't that bad. Now, probably one of the most underrated monsters is the Water Golem. He's probably not a core monster, but he's definitely another one that you want to consider. He has a secret dungeon, I'm pretty sure. You guys might want to check up on that again. But basically, he can farm Fame on Hell, and pretty fast too. Basically, his skills allow him to freeze and stun pretty consistently, and he also reduces incoming damage by 40% when his HP drops by half. So considering these skills and the fact that he's a water monster and that his damage increases as his defense does, this is actually one of the better monsters that you might want to look at for Fame on farming. Now, this is where we're going to find a lot more monsters. A lot of the core monsters are actually in the wind section. It just turns out in the game that most of the good monsters are actually in the wind section. The first core wind monster is definitely going to be Shannon, the Wind Pixie. Her skill set allows her to increase the attack power and defense of your monsters, as well as decrease the speed of the enemies. This is very useful, especially when you're looking at farming Giants B10 or Giants B5. This is probably going to be a monster that you're going to use in your lineup. It's also a bonus that she does glancing hit on her first skill. Now, the Wind Yeti is not necessarily a core monster, but is definitely one of the main monsters that you want to look at before you get the light Inugami. It is easier to get, it is easier to build, and overall you're going to have a lot more fun with it until you get the light Inugami. And it's an easy replacement until you do get that light Inugami. Not only does he decrease his speed, but he also stuns, and his heal is phenomenal for you early game players. Basically, the way it works is the more allies you have alive, the more heal he does. Another core monster is the Wind Warbear. This monster is going to take you everywhere. I still use mine on my main account. With his really high base HP and his ability to pretty much one-shot anyone, it is definitely a monster you're going to be using long term. The next core monster is the Wind Griffin Bernard. This is going to be your first speed buff that you're ever probably going to get, especially for farmable players like myself. This will probably be the only speed buff I can get. He is farmable in Tamor. He is probably one of the best speed buff monsters. People use him all the time late game, but you need definitely good Swift runes. And considering it is hard to get speed early game, this is going to be one of those monsters that we want to get as soon as possible. Increasing stuff like defense, crit, and speed is very, very important. Not to mention, he also brings attack break and defense break on his second skill. Now, there's only a few light and dark monsters that I actually want to show you that are core monsters. The first one being the light Inugami. A lot of players always hear stories about the light Inugami and the light Bearman, but really, honestly, it's really only the light Inugami. The light Inugami packs an amazing heal, especially for early game players, and it also brings a consistent defense break, which is very helpful, especially when you need to do insane amount of damage to the boss. Now, the last core monster, believe it or not, is actually the Dark Warbear, Gorgo. Now, a lot of people overlook him, not a lot of people use him, but he is in fact a great monster. I wouldn't suggest building him as soon as you start, but as soon as you start hitting the 20s, maybe even the 30s, definitely start looking towards this monster. If you can't get any other hard hitters, he's probably the only HP based monster that is going to deal consistent damage and doesn't need his health lowered to do that damage. Plus, it's very helpful for early game players because he doesn't require a lot of crit rate to actually do damage. He gets a 70% critical rate bonus on his third skill, and all 3 of his skills deal damage proportionate to his max HP. That means not only is he able to be very tanky, but he is also able to deal a lot of damage. Now, of course, you're going to need to build him with some decent runes, so I suggest holding off until you can complete B5, B6, and by then if you already have a decent monster to do damage, then don't worry about him. But if you're doing it like me, like farming, or if you just can't get the monsters, then Gorgo is definitely one to consider. So those are all the core monsters. That's definitely every monster that I plan on building. So if you guys are just starting out, I suggest you take a look at every single monster that I just suggested, as well as looking at some of the other 3-star monsters, because there's definitely some better ones as well, but you might want to build them later on in the game. So hopefully this helps a few of you that were wondering what to build when you start your account. Even if you're a little bit experienced and you're starting a new account with me, you could still get some useful advice from this. And hopefully you guys are progressing just as fast as I am, if not even faster. So on that note, I will leave you guys. I just wanted to go through every monster and just discuss which ones I plan on building and which ones are useful. This is mostly for the players that are just starting out, looking at this and getting an idea of what they want to build. Hopefully it helps you guys. I definitely think that it's important to point out which monsters are useful, especially because beginners don't really know what's good and what's not good. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next episode will be a lot more action-packed with more dungeons and stuff like that. As always, hit the like button or subscribe if you liked it. I love this new series. I'm having a ton of fun building this new account. It is definitely a new approach to the game, and now that I kind of know a little bit about what I'm doing, it's definitely very humble when I'm starting out as a new player, especially because I'm trying to get help with secret dungeons on the days. I definitely need help. Those dang Sundays, I just can't get the light Inugami. But if you guys are struggling, I left a link on my Facebook group for a secret dungeon finder website. I'll leave the link in the description below. I suggest everyone use it. If we all use it together, then maybe we'll be able to get the light Inugami, because a lot of us new players are not able to get that dang Inugami. And you could use it for other monsters that you want to farm, like fusion materials. So make sure you check the description below if you're having trouble with the secret dungeons, and I will see you guys in the next episode.